I'm so excited to be doing this webinar today. How many of you have gotten to be on a webinar where you had all these memes on the front slide? Everybody know memes? Everybody? Can I see hands? Hands? People are like, yeah, I know what this is. Hands. I see hands. It's very exciting to see hands. I see more hands. Scrolling down. Ooh, more hands. More hands. Awesome. I see a smiley face. Thank you. I like that. Okay, mostly hands. So yeah, like I thought I knew what memes were too, and I had this one, the Star Wars one, that it's an older meme, sir, but it checks out because I felt like that was an old person meme, you know. And then I started reading a lot of Reddit, and there's a subreddit called like Meme Economy, and my mind was kind of blown because one of the things that they were reading is they were talking about the evolution of the meme and how, like the one in the middle with Yoda, perseverance, do or do not. There is no try. We've all heard that little joke again, but like when it first started, it was a huge deal to make fun of these motivational posters. And then the guy with it's an older meme, right? That's the one that I was most familiar with, and that's how I was seeing things, you know, cheeseburger, LOL, all that sort of stuff. But now the one on the far right with Luke and Leia, when your home planet exploded a few hours ago, but a man you just met is feeling sad about his martial arts mentor. This is the new style of meme. It's not like put the big font over the picture. It's put the text above or below because it fits better into Twitter, and this is the hip thing. And like, how quickly did all of that happen? And did you even know? I didn't even know. I mean, I'd seen these, but I didn't know it was like this trending movement on what these things look like. So at any rate, I think you can tell, I'm kind of fascinated by this work and how does it intersect with our jobs? Many of you don't even know who I am, and I'm going to tell you more about who I am in a minute, but I just wanted to set this up with this idea that we're talking about a generation of young people and a new universe of how technology and communications and marketing and visibility and interaction and engagement is totally different. And that's why this very first session is going to dive into who are these quote-unquote millennials and founders, and the way the private sector is looking at them is as market disruptors. And for those of us working on National Performance Measure 10 or, frankly, any marketing towards young people around health issues, what do we need to know in order to be effective in our job? And I'm not suggesting you need to know what the latest meme style is, but maybe. At any rate, that's where we are. That's where we're going. This is the first in the series. I think you've all seen that. This is kind of the setup. And then the rest of the series is diving deeper into some of the revelations that commercial marketers have about young people as an audience for marketing. So welcome. Whoopsie, that's the wrong button. Here we go. Here's your agenda. Next question, who knows what a mashup is? Mashup, either music or whatevers. Mashups, can I see some hands? Ever heard this one before? You can kind of see what it is because there's the evidence there of the cute little kitty chick, something like that maybe. And if anyone is brave enough to try to unmute and explain what they know about music mashups, I would love that. Feel free to jump in as I stumble through it. But again, this is sort of a social media economy deal where it's a whole underground and awesomeness of young people and old people too who take disparate things, put them together, and see what happens. And it started with music because they were able to start weaving songs together to create something entirely new. And folks who are musical are like, yeah, that's been around for years, sampling, blah, blah, blah. Absolutely. But again, this has become sort of a thing that people hold on to and replicate in the universe because it's got so much traction. So your mashup agenda for today is really kind of just that. What I'm looking to do is expose you to some of these different ideas and see how we can mash up those concepts with marketing health, or marketing the well visit, or marketing public health, whatever your challenge is, right? This is going to be very focused on the well visit because that's the focus of our project here. But for folks who are not in that realm, I'm pretty sure you're going to see application in almost anything that you do. So that's where we're going to go. I'm going to push you to be creative and to be open-minded about some things, be creative, be wacky, be different. I do need you to hold on to your professional understanding of things. At the same time, I'm looking for us to start with what's possible before we get into, oh, that's not going to work. There we go. All right. Oh, goodness. Hit the right button, would you please? I would be remiss if I did not start with these larger generational generalizations. You saw it on my first slide, millennials and founders. And here's the whole chart based on, I don't know, I think I drafted this mostly off of the MTV version. But here you can see how they and others are sort of generalizing about the different generations, right? Pre-1964, we've got boomers. Then we've got this Gen X period from 64 to 81, millennials, and I don't know if my slide does it very well, but we've got the older and the younger millennials represented in this big time gap. What they talk about a little bit is the younger millennials are a bit more like these founders or iGen or Gen Z, which are pretty much adolescents and tweens these days. You can see beneath those generation outlines, I've put in, for my understanding and yours, who our target audiences would be for marketing the well visit or marketing public health to adolescents and young adults, so you can see kind of where they overlap. I do believe we have a poll. Maybe a poll. As the poll is coming up, I'm going to ask you is, who are you? Are you a boomer? Are you Gen X? Are you millennials? Are you founders, Gen Z? I think we divided millennials into older and younger. So if you are between 25 and 35, I'm going to call you an older millennial. Sorry about that. If you are younger, if you're 15 to 24, I'm going to call you a younger millennial. I'm hoping everyone can see this poll. I can see it. I'm going to go in and put my own name in there. But can everybody else go click on a little button? Tell us what you are. While we're waiting for this to happen, if everyone's clicking, etc., you know, where's my chat box? I don't even have that open. Silly me. While everyone's doing this, during your adolescence, growing up in whatever one of these generations, right, that you identify with, think about one big, either national or global event that happened in the world that really is something that you remember and always think about, or not always think about, sorry, misspoke. Something that was really significant that happened when you were growing up, sort of characterizes or defines or shapes maybe your generation. So hopefully right now you're thinking and polling and thinking. Hey, poll master, how are we doing on the polling? Or can you even tell?
We are about 92% finished. If anyone would like to submit their poll answer, do so now, and we will close the poll and share the results.
I see some hands raised, so I'm not going to be calling on you unless it's urgent. I'm seeing Tara and Patty. Hi, Patty. Ooh, look at us. Look at all these Gen Xers. That's how I identify, too. No answer. Awesome. Wondering if that's a protest statement. I love it. If it is, even if it isn't, that's fine. Millennials, older millennials. Oh, nice, nice. Can everyone see the results? I think everyone can see the results. Very interesting. All right. I'm sort of glad that it's going this way. One of the things that during this series I'm going to say a lot is that if we, as a Gen Xer, I simply do not think the same way younger millennials do. I simply do not, for a variety of reasons. And what we're going to do throughout this entire series is kind of uncover what are those differences and what does it mean for what we're doing. Okay, thanks for polling. Excellent. Hold on to that thought that I was giving you, about the stuff that sort of shapes your generation. More and more on this. Oh, if you're feeling nauseous and if those were protest votes that I am applauding, I'm with you. I mean, these are generalizations, and this stuff is largely done and driven by marketing organizations who would prefer that it's that I can box you up so that I can sell you some stuff. Absolutely, that's part of what's behind this. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater here, though. I still think that there's some interesting and relevant things to look at and understand, and that's why we're going to spend some time on it. All right, moving on. Hey, finally the slide about who is speaking. Now, I know a bunch of you know me because of our work with the Adolescent Health Coordinators, but here we are in Minnesota. I'm speaking to you from the University of Minnesota. My colleague Rena, though, is speaking to you from Ohio. And I don't know if it looked like this in Ohio this morning, but that's what it looked like in Minnesota. And yes, it is April. And yes, we are slightly bitter. You see pile of logos on top of that photograph: National Performance Measure 10, State Adolescent Health Resource Center, and Adolescent Health and Young Adult National Resource Center. For those of us that are familiar, at the University of Minnesota, there's been a group that sits in the medical school led by Kristen Teipel, who was the former adolescent health coordinator in Minnesota. And this group has really focused on how do we support folks working in state health systems to do their work around adolescents. And so over the years, we've gotten to visit many folks. We do orientations and trainings and webinars like this. But of late, because of the new performance measures, we have had our work focused on National Performance Measure 10, increasing the adolescent and young adult well visit, and we are part of a larger center called the Adolescent and Young Adult Health National Resource Center. We have colleagues at UCSF, AMCHIP, and Vermont, and we collectively are working with states who are focused on National Performance Measure 10, increasing the adolescent and young adult well visit. So that's why this is all lined up here. The other logo you see here is the Prevention Research Center, just a shout out because I'm also funded by a variety of other grants here at the University of Minnesota, including the Centers for Disease Control's Prevention Research Center. Here, our researchers and community colleagues identify what kind of research can be done to identify best practices and evidence-based strategies to improve the health of young people, and you can see our focus is on everyone's favorite strategy, healthy youth development. More on that another day. I sit here at the University of Minnesota. I consider myself friends with my public health colleagues, but my background is not like yours. My background was in marketing and advertising. Frankly, this is so long ago, it's almost embarrassing. I don't know, can you see the little snipe on that ad? That's a palm top computer now with 2 megabyte memory. Woohoo! I don't think you even want to know what that thing cost back in the day. It was okay, it was close to $1,000. This was the Hewlett-Packard Palm Top, one of the very first ones like this before the BlackBerry became popular. And it was really exciting, this Palm Top computer, because they could run Lotus, no, not Lotus Notes, Lotus 123, gosh, I can't even remember it, Lotus 123 and Microsoft Word, woohoo. But my story is that I worked in an ad agency in San Francisco, and I got to work on a lot of the Hewlett-Packard business, including this one. And so sort of steeped in that marketing communications universe, it's really exciting for me now to work with folks like you so that we can apply some of that knowledge and expertise and strategy to the kind of work that we're doing today. So awesomeness, and you need to hold me accountable because I'm the kind of girl that wrote that headline right there. Okay, I did not write that headline. Who was really fond of that headline with absolutely no thought whatsoever about the social consequence of perpetuating this sort of warrior, wartime, violence message, glamorizing all that into the universe. Yeah, wouldn't have even thought about it. We did do that ad that way because what we heard is only people willing to put up with all the funkiness of that product were salespeople who put a lot around identity and hipness and coolness and were early adopters of technology. And so we framed the whole thing to appeal to them and used their language directly. So that's my background. In this time, Hewlett-Packard was trying to disrupt the marketplace by introducing something that was not either a desktop computer or a portable computer. Back in those days, they were not that portable, but it was an actual computer, trying to find a new, create a new category in the marketplace. This did not have phone capacities, by the way. They were not successful. Really, it took it being embedded into a phone for this market segment to become real. And you look at your phones now, and how much memory? What do I got? 128, 64? I mean, ridiculous, right? And the computing power of these systems and having an operating system, and that was one of the big problems for HP is they were hardware guys. They did not have a viable operating system. It wasn't until BlackBerries and the phones came out that had an operating system that could run some of this stuff and having the network technology be good enough, right, for this stuff to take off. And so I thought it was kind of funny to contrast where this HP ad was to where we are now. And this is a couple of years old that this little news blip came out, but perhaps you've seen some of this stuff, and this is going to be in a later session as well. What do they call it? They call it the health phone, right? That there's going to be a whole deluge of apps and add-ons to your phone that enable you to do way more than fitness tracking. But the point of this little thing was by going into the emergency room and sharing the results from your Fitbit, right, in terms of heart rate and respiration, it was helping doctors to identify some sort of heart issue. I'm sure doctors on this call are groaning right now, and I am right there with you because this is certainly not there yet, but this is evidence of where it's going to go. And so I'm harking back both to my old days, but also to start you down this path of thinking, what can we think of or come up with knowing that young people are going to disrupt the way traditional old stuff works? What can we do? How can we jump onto that bandwagon? How can we take advantage of those interests? And how can we make this stuff work for us? All right. In the handout that Rena sent you, and you can download it from here. Maybe you can't download it from here. We will show it in a little bit in a minute, but this is like the front page or one of the inside pages from the handout. But what we know from both a technical assistance center and sort of the big thinkers in the adolescent and young adult community about why young people, young adults, parents do or don't go in for well visits or what their relationship is like with health systems is fairly slim, right? One of the call-outs, Youth Experiences of Primary Care, that's from Oregon's research. Iowa did another series of focus groups with parents and young adults trying to get at, why they do or don't go. Very similar. Rhode Island did one as well. Beyond the states, we see groups like the CDC, looking at top health concerns. Of course, MTV framing it more broadly, what issues are young people into. We've also got some folks at AAP that are doing research around this. The Unity Consortium, largely behind the HPV vaccines and immunizations. Those folks are trying to figure it out as well. All these focus groups are underway and analysis of their findings are underway. Also through the project that we talked about through the center focused on National Performance Measure 10, we've created a patient satisfaction survey that's being used. So with any luck, that might reveal some insights for us. But in general, it's pretty much what you're seeing here. And I'm going to capture that in a couple of other pages. But as I said, it's fairly slim. Bottom line, maybe they don't even know, certainly don't know what it's named. They don't see a huge value in going because it's a well visit. They associate that far more with younger kids. And bottom line, it's just not a priority. Now more on that in a little bit. Important note. All of the stuff that I mentioned randomly during this webinar, if you want it, write it down, send us a note. We will get it for you or show you where it is. A lot of this stuff sits on the National Network of State Adolescent Health Coordinators website. It's also available on some of the AMCHIP sites, but our friends here know where it is, how to get it, and we'll get it to you quickly. All right, so I did look at the literature. I did try to understand what does the literature say about what incents people to go to a well visit or a child and teen checkup and all that sort of stuff. And again, did not find a ton. Did find one article that talked about the the effectiveness of actual cash or high-value incentives like movie tickets. That was effective. But in general, no, not so much. So I did what I do, and that is I went to see what does the commercial market research community say. And I ran into a bunch of cool stuff like you're seeing here on the screen. These are two of the ones that I spent the most time with, but more will come up. And on that handout, the back page has a bunch of these resources. Again, a lot of it's free, a lot of it's not. Hit me up if there's something specific that you want to get at. And so I'm using the research from these folks to inform the rest of this presentation. You need to know, though, just like with the framing presentations I do, the folks that these researchers are studying, right? How would we characterize those young people and young adults? How would we characterize them? At the most basic level, they are trying to talk to people with some money because they want them to spend their money on buying some stuff. So this is totally aligned with all this consumerism stuff, and I'm going to let your own head go to what that is going to mean for who they are describing when they talk about these trends. All right, back to this generational generalizations. Boy, I have a hard time with that sentence. I asked you before, like, if you could think of an event that happened when you were growing up and how it might have affected you, I would like you, as I'm going to go to the next slide in a minute and talk about what that means for the younger millennials and founders or iGeners, but I want to invite you to type it into the chat box. Is anybody chatting? I'm not paying that enough attention. Go if you had something, type it in. I would really like to see if people resonate with this whole generational impact sort of thing, and I'll tell you one of mine. Specifically, for me, I grew up and moved to California right when the AIDS epidemic was peaking, and I was part of that community, and I think I saw for the first time, even though I knew like historically about activism and stuff, it was the first time I actually saw it happen. Saw it really, really happen. I think that makes me way more affectionate and proud and standing behind anybody that does any protesting. Ooh, I'm seeing more comments. Ooh, look at this. The death of JFK when I was in first grade. Wow. Awesome. 9/11, 9/11. Ooh, yes, Katrina. Absolutely. Oh, Columbine. Oh, right on, right on. Oh, this is so good. Oh, Challenger explosion. Absolutely. Oh, O.J. Simpson trial. Yes, yes. Oh, this is great, you guys. Awesome. And and I know some of you are in groups, which is cool. I'm just wondering, is anybody having like the Challenger, you were in your class when it actually happened? Like, do any of you see like that makes me think about something more, or I'm way more attentive to this, or I'm not attentive to that, or I'm freaked out by so-and-so, or do you know what I mean? Like, is anybody like making any of those links at all? Because what these marketing folks believe is that these experiences were super duper formative, right? So I don't know if like Challenger makes us all more or less interested in science, or more or less committed to the space program, or if the nature of the O.J. Simpson trial has made us all like question whether justice is blind, or do you know what I mean? Certainly a lot of the experiences that involve firearm violence, I can totally see that. And the Y2K reference is awesome too, man. That was huge for us because of tech and stuff. So I'm not giving you a lot of space to actually share with that because we're just going to keep moving, but I want you to hold that thought, because check out this next slide, which is again on one of the handouts. And this is from Mr. Youth. And there's a lot behind this. I'm just giving you like a really top line of it, right? And they, like you, said that for this generation, and so this is younger millennials because of Mr. Youth, that 9/11 was a huge impactful event. Between that and the tsunami and the market crash of 2008, they track those experiences to some of the values and beliefs of this generation, as in, right? So I was in a middle-class family, and then all my money was gone. So here's the deal. Can't take these things for granted. Can't take these things for granted. Also that sense of community and the need to give back or be involved or engage on some level around recycling or contributing back to society or challenging perceptions around stereotypes and that sort of thing. Fascinating. On the positive, they track the success of Apple and the ubiquity of these portable, highly portable, powerful computing devices. In addition to the Facebook explosion, right, where anybody could suddenly be famous, and then the success of the efforts to achieve marriage equity is leading young people down this line of, and I know we all believe young people are sort of naturally optimistic and sort of like that's part of the developmental path as well. But imagine, though, that, you know, you lived in a world where your 13-year-old neighbor created an app and, you know, made $500,000 in a year, right? Or my silly song meme meant that everyone across the country knew who I was. Or that my favorite actor, my favorite daytime TV spokesperson stood up and said that she was gay, and within 10 years we had marriage equality. Right? So all of those things shaping the nature of how they're responding to the world around them and their expectations for what we're giving them or what they're going to get. And you can imagine from somebody trying to sell a product perspective is, got to know that, got to know. All right, now I have a technical challenge that I'm about to engage in, but first, besides Mr. Youth here, MTV has a ton of really cool stuff about this younger generation. And I know that you know that they are doing this because they need to sell their stuff and develop TV programming that will keep them competitive in the marketplace. So granted, there's a sort of distasteful back end to this. But you can see, and I've only clipped out a few pieces of this, but if you look at that handout, you'll see how they start looking at the distinctions between older and younger millennials, as well as what they refer to as founders. And it just, this first point, right, what's the mission of these young people? And this idea that millennials, and I'm looking for you guys to jump in and confirm or deny, right, the millennials, their intention was to disrupt this system. They saw it as problematic, and they want to dismantle it because of the problems and the challenges they see with it. Contrast that to the founders, right, the younger teens and tweens. Yeah, you know what? That's right. Break it down, and we're going to start it over. And we're going to make it new and better and disrupt all that old stuff that's not working so good. And Shelley, your answer is coming up in just 1 minute. So anyway, take a look at the rest of the list. What I'm going to do now is play the MTV video. And this is so slick, and there's going to be a little bit of you that's like, oh boy, oh, that's kind of cheesy. And it is, it totally is. At the same time, if you can put your critical, snarky hat away for just a minute, I put mine down, and just relish in these young people who are no doubt sitting in a Los Angeles television studio and see what you can get from this. It makes me really excited, so I'm hoping that some folks will get there too. All right, I got to click on, let's make sure I do this, share screen. How's it going? Can everybody see my deal? How are we doing, Rena? Am I doing it? Can't hear you, Rena. Oh, okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, and then I got audio challenges, you guys. So, yeah. Okay, here we go.
we're all more connected to people around the world. We know more about what's going on around the world because of technology.
We have so much technology available to us. It's changed the way that we see things. It's more diverse.
I'm not sure we've had many points in history where there's this much innovation.
People are constantly trying to go places and always know that there's so much more out there and are trying to explore it.
Our generation teaches more to accept yourself and be proud of who you are and what your background is.
There's still racism, but there's less racism.
This generation, the puzzle pieces, I guess, are people of different ethnicities or just people who are different from each other, and we're finally all fitting together and not clashing.
People are mostly united in different things, they don't feel alone anymore.
In past generations, it's been advised to fit in order to get by in life, but now the more you stand out, the more celebrated you'll be.
The majority of us are going down a path where people are posting pictures about art that they draw or dances that they come up with or singing, and it's inspiring to others, and then they do it too.
Everybody, I think, is trying to be different in their own way and trying to just stand out.
Be yourself, and also just in order to be cool or whatever, you can't act fake. We're very aware of global warming and tension in other parts of the world.
A lot of kids my age use Facebook for social media. I just use it for news, and that's how I find all the things about around the world, like the earthquakes in Japan recently and the ones in, I think, Nepal.
Human rights it's a really important thing to have.
I think our generation is the bridge to a new era, a new idea, a new world where things that haven't really been thought of get thought of.
I'd like our generation to be marked kind of as a foundation that really set off what's most likely going to happen in the next 50 to 100 years. Founders, because we're the ones that are transitioning from before and to what's going to become after.
I want you all to know that my cubicle neighbors really enjoyed that music soundtrack, so I hope you did too. Okay, now I gotta find my screen. I'm sorry, you all. Hey, if you have your screen, here's what I'm hoping is I can get some reaction. Give me a little note in the chat box. What did you think? You saw why they named it. I know that. Oh wait, maybe my screen is here. And again, I know that there's a little, But put some notes. Give me some notes while I try to find my screen. Stop sharing. Oh, here we go. Slides. Okay, good deal. Are we getting some notes? Made me smile. Me too. Yes, gender fluid defines our generation. Is that before the yes, indeed. Yeah, this is late 2015 that this came out from them, and I do wonder if it would change how they are looking at things. I'm glad the audio was good, better this time, and again we can give you the URL so this is something that you can look at and get at. And when we did a first round of this, there's definitely a little pushback on sort of the nature of this video and maybe the youth that were selected. I mean, wow, very heady sort of thinking, nice what, got a more positive vibe than from older millennials, right? And like, I don't know if we can like be all buying into, you know, millennials like, this is a mess, and where the founders like, yes, let's do something new. And I don't know if we can totally go there, but it does kind of feel like that to me. Yeah, okay, wait. I do sometimes fear that myself as a millennial and younger generation are more focused on the image and idea, not the action. Yes, absolutely, and so more on that, absolutely. And yes, and that one becomes really kind of interesting is it worth it? Do you know, like if it is just posing and posturing and not like actually actioning, is there value there or not? And or what do we take away and focus on as the value? Yeah, oh, these are awesome thoughts. I experienced that with the founders that I work with, it seems like they have much of the idealism of the 60s fascinating, inherent in even in the focus and glamour. Yes, see, no, absolutely. And that's where the part of me that's like, I don't know. I don't think that the term founders ever got a lot of traction. I see a lot more Gen Z these days. So I just want to bring that up for our edification and learning. And I think absolutely, Jordy's comment, MTV has so much invested in the glamorization of this age group. That said, so do I. So I'm all in, unless it's for sketchy, unless it's bad. Do you know what I mean? Like if it's going to set a negative perspective, then I'm not so in. Which is why, again, I want to pay attention to this. Yeah, the getting news from Facebook stood out, right? And I was both like, ooh, and is that just more evidence of the disruption that traditional media venues are just not where they're at? And then today, fake news, right? What? I know, Shelley, the YouTuber generation, we need to remember that. Yeah, one of the things I just read is way higher percentage in YouTube attention than almost any other platform, except maybe some of the music, like Pandora and what's the other one that I can't think of right now. My 12-year-olds want to grow up to be YouTubers. Absolutely, absolutely. And that's another example of the media disruption. You know, spending way more time on YouTube than packaged television, which leads into a whole nother thing, and we're going to have a whole session on this one, right, which is tapping into young people's willingness, ability, and enthusiasm about creating their own quote-unquote content, right? We may not need super highly produced, fancy, glitzy, MTV level stuff, since 12-year-olds dig YouTube. And not a lot of production values on most of that stuff. By production values, I mean like, how is the lighting and does the sound good and is everyone in the right makeup and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. All right, well, I'm excited that you're excited, and I'm glad that you have the necessary level of skepticism as well, so thank you. I already did this. Never mind. We're going to move right past that. Reactions. I don't know. Smiling. Okay. So simple task then, yes? Right? We want to get these young people or their parents to take them in for a well visit. All we need to do is change their attitudes, right? Just tell them you should prioritize these health and annual checkups, right? Easy. Easy peasy. Yeah. Wrong. Totally wrong. So here's the first wrongness of that sentence, and I know you don't really believe that sentence, and that is people typically mistake or confuse messaging and marketing. And I put up this formal definition from My World's AMA, and just to get you on board with the fact that the message is only one small piece of the larger deal. Right? Marketing is how you get people to buy your stuff. And what that means is considering like the price of your product, the features and the characteristics of the product itself, how you promote it, whether that's through advertising or end aisle displays or the packaging or whatever, and then finally where people can buy the product, what place is that product in, and what's the nature of that place and space. All of that together is marketing. Messaging is a small piece under promotion, and I consider messaging what you say about your product to get them to do something around it, right? So marketing, much bigger and much more to attend to. And I bring this up because just like with Hewlett-Packard, the question is, does our product meet the needs of the young people and their parents? Does our product offer a compelling reason to buy or a compelling reason to make it a priority in the busy lives of these folks? Does it? So, come back to that. Here's what I mean by the fact that young people are disrupting the marketplace. As you think about the product that you're trying to sell, consider how their attitudes and beliefs and perceptions and engagement with the universe and the world, right, are impacting their intersection with the commercial marketplace. For example, millennials hate banks. Check out that data. 71% would rather go to the dentist than listen to what banks are saying. And 1 in 3 are like open to switching in the next 90 days. I can't even fathom switching my bank. Like, it just wigs me out to even consider all of the data that's been collected that I would have to get to and da 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 da. Oh my gosh. But apparently banking is one of the most frustrating experiences for young people. Is that tied to the experience with the market falling out and Occupy Wall Street and Bernie Sanders? Maybe, maybe. But nonetheless, banks are trying to figure out what are we going to do to adapt to make it work better for these younger audiences. Ditto the healthcare industry. I've got a bunch of slides on this, right? But when they talk about healthcare as sort of a business marketplace, you can see that big piece of the big pie chart, right? And they're measuring it as 2.8 trillion, and I can't remember what year this is. I think this is probably 2014, right? And you can see there's the healthcare system. They're carving out 267 billion as being the fitness and wellness market. And it was interesting to me because I didn't even think about fitness and wellness market being part of the healthcare system. So even just this grouping is fascinating to me. And then they're talking about these sort of new entrants, right? Who are going to be these new competitors? They framed it as who's going to be the new Amazon, who's going to be the new Amazon.com in healthcare. And then to the left, you can see some of the things that they're talking about as being perhaps ways new entrants are going to make an advance into the marketplace, right? For example, when they talk to this audience, more than half would be willing to put something on their phone and insert it in their body to check their vital signs or get their stitches removed at Walgreens. Ditto, like doing an ear infection check through a device hooked up to your phone, or talking to a doctor. This is a much less, not as strong a number, but talking to the physician via an app on your smartphone. Yay, telehealth, right? I mean, from people who are living in frontier and rural places, they're like, well, duh, of course we got to get here. And this is the way that they think it's going to be going. Fascinating, just fascinating to me that this is what's happening. We got to recognize that the young people who are our primary audience are, in fact, the early adopters. I'm sure people have sort of seen this bell curve of product adoption before, but again, what marketers do is they say they recognize that this curve is generally how a new product or a new product category moves into basic acceptance, going from innovators to early adopters, right? And then you can see the majority moved in and the laggards, and they're identifying where they see the profit opportunity because once it comes to mass market, there's a lot less margin. So we know that young people are going to be squarely in that innovators or early adopters area. A lot of people also draw a big gap in between early adopters and early majority. They call it the chasm because it's so hard to get from those early adopters who are willing to use a terrible palm-top computer with terrible applications and little teeny keys just because it's a cool thing versus folks that really want a clear benefit coming out of it in terms of the early majority. And so, you know, these products move through. It's funny just to see the iPod up there. Does anybody have an iPod anymore? Don't we use our phones? And the BlackBerry? This is clearly really, really old. So I throw up Snapchat. to say to you, when and where and how was Snapchat on this adoption curve? Because again, I'm assuming everybody Snapchat. Can I get hands up? Snapchat? Snapchat, everyone knows Snapchat. Everyone knows what that thing means. How about, does everyone know what the little dots are? What's the little dot thing on there? Anybody? Somebody jump in. Do me a little note. Do me a little note. What are the dots on the Snapchat deal? Code. Code. Exactly. Exactly. So it's scannable, right? Yep. Scan code thing to link someone up. Awesome. Exactly what it is. All right. So I went and pulled some more numbers. Snapchat, within our young people, it has gone from 3% penetration, meaning 3% of young people were using it in 2013, to 23%. When you look at the total population, Snapchat is the 4th largest social platform, right, behind Facebook, et cetera. However, when you look at 12 to 24-year-olds, Snapchat is the #1 social platform. This is the first time, this is for 2016, this is the first time that these researchers saw that Facebook was not #1 in the demographic. It's used by 72% of 12 to 24-year-olds, whereas Facebook is used by 68%. I'm sorry, the 3 to 23 must have been mass populations. Who's on Snapchat? Y'all on it? I'm not on it. I'm just following, right? And is this going to track to our friends who identify as millennials? Anybody who's not a millennial who's on Snapchat? Do me a hand again. Do me a hand. Ooh, I see a couple. I should identify. And who does not have children that are of the age. No, I'm just kidding. No. Ooh, and they go away. No, awesome. But you see what I'm saying, right? Love Snapchat. And what do we do? What are you guys doing with Snapchat? Is it the same as young people? Probably. At any rate, that intersection, fascinating. Okay, moving on. I'm moving on. Here we go. Here's this fitness tracker. Yep, talking to the kids. Awesome. All right, here we go. The fitness tracker market to top $5 billion by 2019. Wearable ownership demographics. This is really interesting. Since I did this last time, Fitbits are falling off the register, probably because of the iPhones and the ability just to do it all combined. But it's interesting that this is going down. That's not to say that the wearables market is not still a huge deal. What did I just see? By 2017, it's projected to be $23 billion worldwide. So you can see it's much bigger than the tracker market they have here. I'm hitting all this mobile technology stuff. Yep, Annalise is saying Apple Watch, absolutely. To say, I'm trying to force you into thinking creatively about our stuff. And here is your moment #1, mashup. This is Harry Potter as Scarface. Here's what I want you to do now. What happens when we think about mobile health apps and our desire to increase well visits by adolescents and young adults? Do not say appointment scheduling. Okay, we know that. We got that one. What else? What is this? I'm looking for the most creative, wacky something. Yep, I see Shelley with Reminder Call. I want to go well past anything you've ever heard of. Mental health screening, not wacky but helpful, absolutely, absolutely. We're just looking to generate as many ideas as we can. That customer survey, that patient survey was something that they're putting, some folks were doing mobily. Prescription reminders, dig it, pre-screen for all things. Oh, see now, here we go. Right, cut down my wait time by pre-screening me. Absolutely. What if the mental health screening had a back end, right, depending on what you said and wanted? I know this is probably a violation. You know, they give you the little motivational thoughts or the cognitive behavioral therapy triggers that somebody like me would need. No, don't be negative. It's not on you. Ooh, here we go. Look at all these cool ideas. Sit in car and wait for room to be ready, then text me when it is. Yeah, exactly. See, now what Shelley just did, though, is can you conceive a whole new way of interacting, with a healthcare office, almost like the restaurant, at the mall? You're here's your little recorder thing. You guys go shopping, and we'll just text you when it's time. Wow. And what would that do to the way the clinic is and acts? Okay, wait, I'm going back through. This is super exciting for me. Sorry. Patient portal, sit in car. Okay, link to nutrition and fitness for BMI counseling. Right on, right on. And I wonder if like there's, yeah, like all of the data that you're collecting in terms of like what's your steps and heart rates and all that sort of stuff. If you're interested in this, you might be interested in connections, moving them through to connect them to larger, different ideas, receiving gifts from your doctor. I love it, right? Because like it could be a relationship building. When I hear that more, the gifts with the doctors, it could be a whole relationship building thing, right? Because frankly, until my new doctor, I did not like my doctor. I did not have a personal relationship. I didn't think she was fun or interesting or even cared about me. I don't know if a cat gift would have gotten me feeling warmer towards her, but probably. Okay, tracking cycle, moods, foods. Oh my God. Okay, sorry, this is really, really female, but does somebody make a menstruation tracker? Totally would have appreciated that. Thank you very much. Probably my parents would have. Picture send in your rash. Temperature from your phone. Get your diagnosis. Loving it. Loving it. Foods. Absolutely so many free apps. Getting your temp, getting your diagnosis. Yeah, we could put allergies in there. Loving that. More integrated care within schools. Ooh, I'd love to know more about what that is. Oh, I want to be the rash nurse. You guys are cracking me up. Hey, if somebody wants to jump in and tell me more about how it might work within the schools, I'm loving that. Where would that go? The referrals, gifts from the doctor, basic test results, right? That could come back. That came directly from focus groups with youth. Which one? The young people waiting in the thing. Link to resources in your area, free screening links. Ooh, that automatically do a follow-up afterwards. All right. I'm loving this. These are great ideas. Rena, am I making it up that we can copy and paste these into a document when we're done so that we can share?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. There's an app where the glucose level from the pump goes directly to school nurse and parents and alerts. Wow. Wow. Okay, so those are fabulous ideas. The next step with something like that would be to try to figure out, like, how do we then innovate our product, right, which is the well visit, to make it so that sort of stuff happens and is possible and is still sort of tapped in and appealing to who we're talking to, AKA young people. Because, and again, this is back to the trends within the healthcare world, right? These retail health clinics, the minute clinics, et cetera, are clearly having some traction and changing some of the expectations that people have for how they're going to engage with health clinics. Because a lot of your comments were getting at the fact that you go to a doctor's office and you're going to be sitting there for a while waiting on stuff, and that's not the nature of it when you're at a retail health clinic. It's a transactional process where we tend to believe in our universe that it's a relationship process, and that's part of where the value lies. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying, do they serve different roles, and what can we learn from both sides of these things? The other side of it, though, is that, like, before I got my new doctor, did have a better relationship with my pharmacy guys and gals than I did my doctor. They knew my name. You know what I mean? They see me every month, where my doctor didn't. She saw me once a year. So how does that work? And then just to push it to the furthest place that I possibly can, there are new health insurers with a sort of a privatized insurance and clinical system. This one is called Zoom. It's in the Pacific Northwest. And what they have done is packaged up that whole range of health and wellness and physical activity and food and nutrition and mental health into almost like a spa setting, where you can go get your well visit, your immunizations, your birth control, your yoga and meditation class, as well as your spinning exercise routine and your nutrients and your healthy wheatgrass drinks all at one place. Yes, private insurance. That guy's playing a game on it's one of those health games on the big screens there. Yes, big money, absolutely. But clearly they're going after somebody, and I think that that age group is way closer to ours than not. Just the pictures of this and just the things that you all were saying really reinforce one of the larger themes that I'm getting from the consumer research about young people, and that is that to them, Place matters so very much. Young people, I'm talking about younger millennials and the founders or iGen, right? They value the nature of the place and what it brings over efficiency and sometimes even price. One of the stories they talk about is how going and standing in line for 45 minutes at the coolest food truck in town is an event, and it's a place. And they don't care that they're there for 45 minutes because they're hanging out with their friends, with other cool and groovy people, and there's things to see and things to do. And in the end, we get a good, amazing food out of it. And we've got this whole experience that we're going to then share with our friends. And that's where the value lies. That's what makes it relevant. There's another whole discussion sometimes about the way society has sort of marginalized young people, right? The only real place for them is in schools. So creating a third place or space for them to hang out and have interaction with their peers and humanity at large is huge. They need these social spaces, places where it's like casual and unstructured as opposed to the formal school or Boys and Girls Club or whatever. So here's a little example. This is from the Total Youth Handbook. McDonald's compared to Starbucks. McDonald's spends 10 times as much as Starbucks does in any sort of advertising. And that was specific to 2014. And check out where the market revenues happened. 0.03 for McDonald's versus 5 for Starbucks. Even with all that money behind it, that setting, that place for young people at McDonald's is simply not there. Starbucks, you got power plugs, you can sit down and read and study with your friends at those really big tables and plug in, and you know, it's kind of like Cheers. The barista knows your name. They're writing it down. They're going to call it out. That's the difference of place. And of course, we have our own analog here, right? This is from Colorado's book, Yay Colorado, Awesomeness, Before and After Makeover. These aren't the most dramatic changes that I've ever seen, because if you've ever been to a holistic health clinic, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's what we all should be going to. I don't know why. It doesn't look this way, but you can see the efforts that they were making in terms of putting textiles in there, giving the equipment a little less prominence, right? Even the comfort factor of those chairs. Who puts the folding chairs? That's just terrible, right? Setting up the computer and the interaction in such a way. I don't even think there's a computer in that second room, maybe not. But you see what they're trying to get at here. So I'm asking you again to do a little mashup, please. Not rearrange the living room. Not even rearrange the living room. I mean the waiting room. But what could we put into the well visit to create a place or a space where adolescent and young adults want to be? I know, it's radical. I saw a really cool thing. Coffee, Wi-Fi access, comfy chairs, right on, free Wi-Fi, right on. Hold on, there was a long one. How do I get to this? One of our health systems has very welcoming signage away from the little kids, right? And the babies. The signage, thanks for choosing us. Yes, right. Or first is a place where all the signs are negative. No weapons, no this, no that. You will not be tolerated. No cell phones. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and those things seem like such low-hanging fruit, right? Snacks were big on our youth survey, right? And again, like a lot of you folks know what some of these triggers are that are going to work. Photo booths that make people want to post on social media, interactive games. Love it. Not in a hospital. Not, oh, somebody's putting up links. I love you. Memes that go out to them, right? This is useful, nice. Not in a hospital, a place you can only access through a parking ramp. Fascinating. I'm loving it, Jordy. That's awesome. Who's it? Can anybody get even more radical? I'm not clicking on, like, I would love to know more. Like, is there something like way out of bounds that we usually wouldn't even attach to the well visit? I mean, okay, like, take Wi-Fi and can anybody amp that up? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a screening of Rocky Horror Picture Show, and afterwards you get a well visit. Okay, no, that's ridiculous. Headphones with your choice of music. Ooh, confidentiality of private spaces, a street front store, right? Okay, no, okay, that's giving me another idea, right? Like, okay, this is maybe totally inappropriate, but whatever, you expect this to me. Ooh, video game tournaments in the waiting room, loving that, loving it. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. And now you're like, so here's where you're going, you guys are going like, does it have to be in the clinic? Does it have to be in the clinic? Staff, the way the staff are. Health Poetry Slam, love it. Love it. Located in a school and escape from the rooms and have the cushions. Health events, ooh, photo ops with murals, etc. I love it. Meet people where they are. Love it. Health events in the public where the focus isn't the visit. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been wondering about too, right? Warped tour wellness visits. These are awesome. All right, excellent mashing up. Excellent. You know this already. This is from an actual journal article something. Hold on, where's my citation? Journal of American JAMA, and Current Women's Health Rep. I don't know what that means. Reproduction, probably Glynis. That's good. One youth suggested inviting famous dirtbag writers. Yeah, no, I know. Like, what if you had celebrities hanging out in the waiting room? Another place that Kristen found out about was like where they staff the waiting rooms with youth workers that immediately engage young people in something, so they're not just sitting there with terrible, you know, magazines of home and garden, etc. All right, so product matters. Here's the list of stuff that tends to be barriers that limit healthcare utilization. Everything from policies around confidentiality into just like you had it, there was no pizza, and everyone looked down on me the minute I walk in there because I'm a teenager and I had pierced things or whatever. We're all moving to Colorado. Let's just say it. Let's just say it. The picture on the right is an actual clinic staff worker here in Minnesota at a sexual health clinic. And I just want to point out how different the dynamic, and yes, the thing on the left is one of those terrible stock art photographs, but the different, you can just totally different vibe, right? If this young woman met you versus that health staff. And again, I'm not criticizing the old health staff, I'm just saying it's a very, very different vibe. And given who we're talking about, it seems like it's a very required vibe. I've gotten some pushback because I'm all like, why white coats? Why? And it was the thing I got was infection control, right? There's a reason that they wear the white coats. I'm just wondering, is there a happy medium here? And I'm hoping you're getting the sense that, like, I am all about the cool, awesome, fabulous, big ideas. At the same time, it's going to require some negotiation and ongoing relationships in order to get clinics and healthcare systems to this point as well. We're hearing the cool stuff in Colorado, and I know that youth sexual health clinics can be super awesome in terms of addressing all of these kind of needs because that's their bread and butter. But a lot of these major primary health health organizations do not. Public health staff go to homes to study communicable diseases and don't wear white coats. Ooh, I'm going to be using that one, right? And again, I don't know why I'm really hung up on this white coat thing. Okay, I kind of know why, but it's like a weird thing. Like, yeah, like pattern scrubs is a happy medium or something that doesn't set up this weird power dynamic something. I don't know. At any rate, save my little soapbox on that for another day, but I love these comments. Thank you. So here we go. Here's the biggest mashup of all. And this sheet that you're looking at is, again, on the handout download thing. I probably should open it up because maybe it's cleaner. I don't know. Hold on a second. Oh, is it cleaner? Is everyone seeing the? Nah, not so much. We'll just go back to this. What we did, and this is, you know, Kristen, Rena, and me and the AmChip and all that, those sort of folks, is we took the guidelines that existed for what actually is supposed to happen at the well visit, and that's what's under that product component section. And again, praise Kristen for figuring out how to organize this into something that made sense, right? Like, there's the physical assessment stuff that has to happen. And I think we got all this from Bright Futures. Kristen, feel free to jump in if I'm making stuff up. There's the immunizations that they need to get. And then there's the screening, right? Whether you're doing a HEADS motivational interview or just doing the risk and strengths screening or just the risk screening, et cetera, right? But those are the topics that are supposed to be kind of covered and discussed. And then another thing we've heard a lot coming back from doctors in the health industry is that they're observing the parent and youth interaction as just another way, another thing to inform how they're approaching the engagement. So those are the components, but look at the other stuff that I've put in there, right? You remember my 4 Ps that come together to make what marketing is all about? Well, they're embedded in here as well. On the left-hand side, you'll see my first little box is audiences. And I have starred adolescents and young adults because I just want to be honest with y'all, that's all I'm really interested in. Parents and caregivers are totally viable audience, and certainly could and should be the focus of another training session, just like focusing in on the marketing activity of the systems of care and the practitioners themselves is another totally viable opportunity, right? And what I mean by these things are like, if you were to, through the systems of care, right, if you were to like hook up with Kaiser Permanente or Medica or whatever, right, and partner with them to get them to do effective marketing outreach to parents and young adults, that is a brilliant, awesome, efficient strategy. Another way in, and this was particularly relevant for the first round of collaboration we did with the state health departments, is like if you're working with a small number of clinics, working with the clinics to do the marketing directly, right, through customer calls or reminder postcards or their own posters, their own outreach, blah, blah, blah. Again, super valid, totally right on. Yeah, but, and especially the parent thing, just not that interesting to me for a variety of reasons, and I will give anybody who wants one a rationale, but the focus of this whole series is on those first 2, adolescents and young adults. I see Shelly is saying, can't find the download box. You know what? I think we might have messed up the download box, Shelly. I've got a URL in just a, to the Dropbox. Oh, no, that was another project. I don't know. Somebody will send this to you really quick, I promise. All right, so that was the audience. What's the next one there? Audience mindset. Today you've been hearing like the millennial, younger millennial, and the iGen, sort of mindset or orientation. And so we want to know that in the big picture, but we also need to know it like specific to our stuff, right? Like what do they think about the healthcare system? What do they think about a well visit? What do they think about doctors? What do they think about health in general? What does that mean to them? What does being healthy mean? And so you can see the stuff I put in here is fairly obnoxious, like preventative what? Or preventive health visit. Health is, I don't know. Health is maybe not drinking too much Mountain Dew today. I don't know. Medical services are, right, for old people or for babies or whatever. And then specific into the clinic that they're going to go to. Like what is the nature, what is their belief or reaction to the nature of that clinic specifically. Beneath that, I've got promotion. This is just generic kind of strategies, right? This is the stuff that we saw. Rena did a really big review of like who was doing what, and we saw things like letters from the clinic or the insurer, larger awareness campaigns, sometimes sponsored by the health department around child and teen checkup or well visits. A lot of times we saw, too, the power of a policy. Oh, was somebody jumping in? Okay, I'll keep going. I hear a little typing. Word of mouth or where it is, right? Those school-based health centers rock it when it comes to getting some of this work done just through proximity, and they're a lot smarter about engaging young people in general. You see the next one is about price, right? And we've been back and forth on this a lot, right? With the Affordable Care Act, the preventive well visit is free, mostly, right? Like it is free until they find something wrong, and then they're going to do a diagnosis or a secondary coding, and then it's not quite so free, right? So there's the actual monetary aspect of the price, but the other part of it is like, what's the like social or emotional cost to doing this, right? Like it could be a total asset, right? If the value in your circle of friends is like the coolest kids are the ones that are like right on top of this well visit and come back and like brag about their BMI. I'm totally making that up, right? But like then there's no social cost. It's an advantage, but perhaps it isn't. Folks that work in the sexual health community, right, used to be a lot of concern about what the social cost was from showing up and being in those sort of places. The other price that we think about is that privacy, confidentiality, and the nature of the paperwork that has to happen. You know, who's been to one of these things and you get to something like gender or are you married, and you're like, yeah, well, I would write down married if it wasn't illegal in my state, or do you know what I mean? Or you only give me 2 choices for gender, and how do I check? So like there's a lot of things to be considering about this price box here. The product deliverables I see as different maybe than the product components. The thing to think about here is like, what are they going to walk out with? What do they get? Like concrete, real stuff. Like, okay, they get some test results. They might get an insight or some advice on how to handle whatever the issue is. Maybe they have that good feeling about having a relationship with a doctor. You know, oh, I know Dr. Smith. She's awesome. They might get a referral to go someplace else. And or they might leave with a state of mind, right, a feeling about stuff that is either positive or negative. Okay, I think we're getting some download instructions. Was there something else in here that was interesting? Here's Annalise again. Parents are more key than we think, in my opinion, in the adolescent well visit. They determine if, when they go, what questions get asked, what tests are agreed or requested, value statements, who they go to. We will only go to providers that are, yeah, I totally agree. Parents are really, really significant players in this process. Absolutely. And if you're focused on younger adolescents, I would say they're probably the most important audience. But again, we'll come back to that again. All right, where am I now? Product deliverables. Okay, product benefits, right? Like what's in it for you? This is again another Hewlett-Packard story, right? The product benefit is not the speed of the computer. It's the speed of the computer that makes you get to watch cool YouTube videos. So Hewlett-Packard can say all day long, we have the fastest computer. Nobody cares. What they care about is how fast is my YouTube video going to play back. So product benefits would be things like, well, I can play on the sports team, or I feel really good about myself, or this advice was really spot on, or, you know, my thing with my body is that I want it to be awesome and last forever and be good, and that's why I do this, so it's a real benefit to me. This is a big gaping hole. Product name, I just put a couple of these up here. We have a terrible product name, don't we? And it's not consistent. That's the other thing we're learning from the States, is it's very different from one place to another. And then last but not least, the product experience, another Hewlett-Packard story, used to call, when computers were being sold into consumer audiences, they talked a lot about the out-of-box experience, UBI, out-of-box experience, like, because you had all these old people trying to hook up computers and monitors. Do you remember this? Like everything was color-coded because old people were blowing it and they didn't know what to do, and the cup holder / CD thing. Yeah, I'm sure some of you remember these sort of things. But so considering the entire experience from when you call to make the appointment or see an ad or a poster to being in the place to getting the follow-up, every single one of those is sort of a product experience, and how tapped in are we to making the most out of those and aligning them with who we're talking to. Just like your examples, we're like, you know, can we text them the results? Can we create a special portal they can access through their phones? Blah, 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 blah. All right, so that's this big document. And if you are working on this issue, this can be kind of a guide for you to start thinking through what's it going to take for us to get a product that young people are going to buy. Because honestly, I'm not feeling it. Part of why Annalise's perspective has a lot of merit is that there's some clearer, easier benefits to talk about, right? Because you want to be a good parent. It's a harder sale for young people. And in fact, I believe that for a young person, the barriers may outweigh the benefits. Health services, well visit, checkup services as they exist do not appear to be that relevant to the circumstances, needs, desires, values of young people, in my opinion, from what I've read. Our marketing on this is terrible, if non-existent, including the inconsistent name and or a name that doesn't necessarily resonate or align very well. And finally, it's just a very confusing channel between primary care doctors and all the other opportunities. What does that mean, right? And again, as I understand, and I know this isn't true everywhere, but you tend to go into these primary care clinics and the swath of people being served is so broad that it is going to just naturally feel alienating and not suitable for young people. So this is how I see the bottom line, and again, I'm, of course, invested in making it challenging. Thank you for the time alert. States are making significant progress on this front, and I'm just giving you 30 seconds on some of the cool things that are going on. Depending on your interest level and where we're going to go next with this series, I would love to get some of these folks on to share with you what they've been doing and the successes that they've have had. New Mexico was part of the first COIN. It was the group that was funded to do and receive technical assistance resources to really focus here. And what they did in New Mexico is replicate and implement a process that they called Youth Chat. And what this is a youth engagement strategy where they engage young people, in this case through a theater for the performing arts, as the teachers and advisors to clinical practice. They through the programming, funded in part by the state, through school-based health center funds, they taught young people through a curriculum how to create characters and then asked them to role play these characters with physicians and practitioners, also at conferences, etc. I think that they went beyond just the physicians into the front desk staff and other folks that were working at the school-based health center. They leveraged this success at the school-based health center into a complementary connected clinic in New Mexico that was not set in the school-based health center. New Mexico. Turns out Colorado is doing a very similar process, not through the states this time, but through Kaiser. The curriculum and the ways to do all this, free and available to anyone who would like it. Wisconsin has what they call a patch program, very similar. What they've done is engaged young people to create training and feedback systems for the clinical settings. They do this training both for the clinic staff, also for parents, also for peers. Can you tell I just lost track of my pieces of paper? I did. Oopsie. I lost Wisconsin. Here it is. The young people are the trainers. They did it with a few local places at first, and then they've spread it across the state. I heard just last week that now they're getting out of their state and into the East Coast. It might be New Hampshire. Can't entirely remember. But they will, a lot of stuff is accessible, but they're also trying to kind of replicate this model through like a payment process. Do you know what I mean? You'd contract with them to engage around their system. Last one, Michigan. Probably everybody's heard of Michigan. This isn't the State Department of Health in Michigan, but at their university, they have this adolescent health initiative. Go immediately to their website and see what is there and what is free. They've got a conference coming up at the end of April that I strongly recommend if this is your thing. Furthermore, they've got a keynote speaker that will rock your world in terms of disparities. Their work is really focused on clinical quality improvement via some youth engagement, right? So it's a little bit flipped from what I was just describing before. They do have a very active youth board. They've created some videos, some trainings. They've consulted on the outbound marketing materials around the posters and blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. Again, Michigan is much more interested in sort of selling a replication of their model. You can contract with them to do assessments, do the quality improvement process, get into all of these sort of things. All of that is there, and there's some stuff on their website that's free, but other stuff they're really looking to partner with you to replicate what they're doing at your place. So that's Michigan. There's more. There's tons more. Just wanted to start with some small ones, and you all probably have some as well. So that was the formalness of my slides here. I just want to, what's the incentive for providers to want a youth advisory group? How do we sell that? It is needed. And again, that is really sort of one of the core questions. And is it even like, are providers the right place for the youth advisory group? I mean, absolutely yes, but given what you're saying, is it an easy sale? I don't know. It kind of depends on the clinic, right? So what I get most when I'm talking to groups like yours, like this group, right, is like, how do you as a system or a partner collaborate with another youth-serving organization and then bring in the clinical world as a support, right? I mean, like three-legged stool. That's the metaphor right there. That said, we do see some clinics that are totally buying into this. They're like, yep, nope, we absolutely need it. But it is a process, just like Annalise is saying here. We're going to save that one for another day as well. Here we are. All right. I hope this was fun. I had super fun time. Your ideas are fabulous.